Alright guys, welcome back to Valorant News with the kickoffs due to begin in just a few days. Only 2 qualification spots for Masters Madrid happen in all the regions around the world. Which teams will get to that point, especially in the Americas? Lots of speculation as to the top 3 theoretical teams in the Americas side. NRG, Sentils and Leviathan. That's what most people are saying. But Zellsis and FNS do reveal that NRG's practice over the last few days has still not necessarily been so good, and also discussing which of those teams are most likely to flop, and maybe it could be Sentils. Remember to tweet your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. One of the major stories, though, if not the major story yesterday of the esports landscape was around IEM Katowice that concluded yesterday afternoon, at least my time zone. And there was lots of reaction, understandably, from the Valorant pros to this new talent in Donk, who absolutely dominated the tournament from start to finish. Incredible to see a level of performance, especially from, a debutant quite to this level. And there were some serious questions as to, who's the next up player like this in the Valorant world, when this is going to happen again. Is Demon 1 maybe an arguable correlation to something like this? But, I mean, the numbers were just absurd. If you guys watched any of IEM Katowice, as Vanity says, of course, IGL for Cloud9, how is this even possible? He had a 1.8 rating going into, map 3 of the grand finals. I mean, like, map 1 was ridiculous. Map 2 they won as well, and then he also dominated the overpass and takedown phase. Like, it was just an absurd level of play. 17-year-old Russian player, pretty brand new to the scene. Obviously, people have known his name for a few months now, but yeah, Vanity says, how is it even possible? And as Vanity says, there's literally no one else who has ever performed even close to this level statistically in CSGO as well, but also in Valorant, to be fair. Now, that was the crazy thing about this performance, right? It's not just the best individual performance by, like, a debutant ever, their first event. It's the best individual performance anyone has ever had. And it's just completely ridiculous. And I don't know whether there's any possibility that, because it's MR12 now, Counter-Strike, right? They've kind of taken some lessons from Valorant in that sense, that MR12 as in, first to 13 rather than first to 16 is maybe a better viewing experience because there are not as many rounds and the game doesn't slog on quite as long as it maybe has done in Counter-Strike's past. But, so maybe that's what's caused to some degree of these higher ratings than normal. But realistically speaking, it's just more of, it's just a slightly smaller sample size than is usually the case. But yeah, I mean, only 10s in Reykjavik maybe can correlate to this, and we've seen some of the other great, debutantes over the years, Simple, Zyru, Monacy, Nico, Bit, and then Donk is right about here. So, there were comparisons, obviously, to what's happened in Valorant, and, which players have ever had a tournament performance quite like that. The only one that is really close to it is gotta be 10s at Reykjavik, right? And these are the numbers based on that. Even Demon 1's Champ's performance was incredible, but his first event was at Masters Tokyo, where he had a very solid performance and very solid rating, but, really not that much in parallel, to 10's first event at Reykjavik and Ye's first event at Masters Berlin. So those are the only players really in the Valorant world which can even kind of replicate to some degree what Donk managed to deliver. So I know there was lots of discussion going around about it, and people wondering, like, what would that be? Who's the next up player in Valorant that's going to deliver something like that? Because when you've got a pretty healthy, you can argue, esports ecosystem over there in Counter-Strike, it's been around for so many years, it's going to be around for so many years to come, it keeps developing young talent. And the Valorant ecosystem, okay, you can argue about tier 2, tier 3, how well supported it is, but, Valorant's still a big esport. There will be players such as that coming through the ranks. It's probably only a matter of time until we find out who they're going to be for the near future. Now, speaking of champions, actually, Valorant China, who did not have the game, of course, let's not forget, they only had it very recently, right? Only came out in 2023. The Champions 2021 bundle, which was very popular at the time, is actually coming back into Valorant China February the 15th. And people are really... Well, I know lots of you guys maybe didn't even play Valorant a couple of years ago in 2021, so didn't even get the opportunity to purchase this skin when it was first around. And it's been a very popular one for quite some time, and of course it's now gone. So many people are saying, like, will they go one step further here and add this bundle back into the other regions as well? Will it emerge around the world? So, I kind of doubt that they will. They could do, plausibly. I imagine they might also do the 2022 bundle for China as well in the near future. So people are saying, get me on my VPN, or get me, maybe I'll have to fly to China so I can download it there and actually get the Champions bundle in. But there is so much demand for it that I imagine Riot might be seeing the reaction and thinking, okay, maybe we can figure something out in the near future. future, but of course we also know that they're releasing all of the team bundles into the game as well. So all of the team skins, the player, whatever it's going to be, the player cards and stuff, they're adding into the game shortly for all the teams. And those aren't going to be time limited. Those are going to be available anytime pretty much from now to the end of the season. And I'm sure that the Sentinels one will probably be a particularly good seller. So Zellsis has been talking about, of course, over the last few days, starting with the team, not starting with the team, and all this type of stuff. We know full well that Zellsis is going to be on the starting roster. There's no doubt about it. He's made it clear. Pancada's made it clear. The team haven't made it so clear themselves, but, it's only a matter of time until Zellsis is appearing, I believe, on the roster come the kickoff in a few days' time. But a massively important tournament, of course, coming up in just a few days' time. They are in the challenging group with Loud as their first round game, Leviathan and 100T, the other teams in the group. Group of death, but of course, if you want to win and get top 2, you've got to at least be top 2 in your group. So that will be the first port of call for these guys. NRG, of course, have on paper a far easier group. They're in the group with Cloud9, with MIBR, and with Furia. So that's theoretically an easier group to get through. But there has been talk about NRG pretty much ever since they initially formed that they've been somewhat behind other teams in terms of how their practice is looking. There's been talk, even Ethan mentioned this on the timeline at some point, that, tier 2, tier 3, T4 in America are really strong and they're smoking NRG and scrims. And there's been a general feeling that NRG's practice hasn't been as, maybe as strong, as dominant as other teams. Now, practice doesn't really mean that much at the end of the day. It's not always about winning scrims, it's about learning as much as you can. And on paper, we always talk on paper about NRG, that team is pretty ridiculous. Now, you can argue that maybe they're not as ridiculous as you might think, like are Victor and Crashies still the players maybe they were a little while ago? Maybe there's a debate to be had about that, but, theoretically, the NRG roster is very powerful. Obviously, there's questions about in-game leading, but at the end of the day, we don't have evidence on what NRG are doing. With Sin Lev win a tournament. Sure, with a slightly different team, they had Nozma then, now they've got Com. We've seen Sentinels win a tournament in the off-season. We've seen nothing really from NRG. They haven't even played any kickoffs or any, Mickey Mouse tournaments or whatever, anything like that. So we don't really know what to expect from these guys. But there was a lot of talk here between FNS and Zellsis about the possibilities between Sentinels and this NRG roster.
Well, NRG is practicing right now. They're not doing too hot.
Yeah, they're so they need to practice. What's your take, dude? You think we beat NRG? Actually, I feel like everyone that plays with you just asks you these kind of questions. I don't care.
Okay, no, they don't. But if I'm being honest, you and Lev can beat NRG, but you have to have.
What do you mean can? What is that? Like, you think NRG is untouchable?
They would have to, at their best, yeah. You're not.
Oh yeah, on paper at their best, they're the best team in the world.
Right, of course. But that's my point. Is like you at your best versus them at their best, you lose.
Well, me at my best, I'm untouchable.
But if you guys maintain a specific form that they can't reach, then yeah, of course you beat them.
Alright, sit outside B, but we wait for Cam, see if Raze is here. Then we go B.
I like that. This is why Sentinels just drop Pancada like
I know. Replace that.
Dude.
Thank you.
Why does he double down?
You think Lev is actually going to be that good?
I do.
I feel like they're either going to be good or bad. Like, they don't have, a middle ground. Because their team is just, weird.
I mean, I don't think they flop. I don't know. I think you're more likely to flop than they are.
What the f? I so agree. If I was on the bench, I'm not on the bench, bro. I'm starting. And it's about damn time everyone knows that, bro. Put some goddamn respect on my name. You understand me? You are? Since when? Oh my god! He's not actually benched? No way! Are they gonna announce it? What, that I'm starting? Probably not. Sen enjoyed the idea of me being like a 6-man, bro, but I'm... It's like, half the people at Sen say I'm starting publicly, half the people at Sen say I'm benched. And I've decided to say I'm starting, bro, because there's no point. Like, Pancada's already said it on his stream, he's in Brazil, and all the interviews are whatever the bro. So justice for Pancada. You better sub to me, buddy. Me and Pancada are best friends.
So maybe it's expected there that FNS, knowing those guys very well, formerly of NRG, is going to be slightly more on the NRG side of the equation. I think he is correct to say that theoretically that team is very strong, but I know there's been lots of debates, right? Which of those three teams, Sen, NRG, Lev, is the most likely to flop? And it's actually quite difficult to say, I would say. Sentinels always will have this reputation that, well, are they on the verge of some sort of collapse? Are they ever going to be able to really deliver on the reputation that they have? But I think this year they've got a better chance than ever, really. Leviathan are an interesting roster because, very arguably, they are not in a great spot from a team chemistry perspective. The whole Nos themselves were getting dropped drama was kind of wild, and there seemed to be a lot of friction really between the coaching staff and the players on exactly what they wanted to do on that. They made that quite public really in their discussion of it, but Com is now in, and you'd imagine that they will stabilize to some degree. But then NRG we don't really have any evidence of. So I think between those teams it's fascinating, and even Loud, let's really not forget Loud either, because Sadek has said, look, don't overlook us, don't underestimate us, and there's other teams as well that will feel they're in a similar category. So that's very interesting. Of course, those boys also discussing the Sentinels team itself, how they might fare against NRG. And, I mean, FNS's opinion is that NRG, if they reach their peak level, if they reach the level which their talent suggests they should, then it's a no-brainer NRG are the best. But I'm not sure that's necessarily even so clear. And Sentinels have at least shown levels they can get to. But it's going to be a fascinating few days. What I'm really hoping for is that NRG do make it through their group, and then we get, you know, Sen or Lev or whatever, make it out of their group, and then we get to see some real, you know, bloodbaths come at the VCT playoffs, where we get matchups like this to determine which teams are going to go through to Masters Madrid. Because on paper, there should be a pretty big skill gap, I would say, between the theoretical top teams in their various regions and the theoretically weaker teams, but still only 2 teams making it is pretty fascinating, and Sentinels seem very confident in their future, right? And of course, Zellsis has made it very clear that he is the man to stay, and is very confident that he's going to be able to deliver to Sentinels exactly what they need for the upcoming season. So very much interested in your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.